My name is Andrew Summerich. I'm the Head of Learning here at EdApp, and today we're going to be talking about some of our awesome new features that we're really excited to discuss with you. Not just the new authoring tool, but some exciting features around leaderboards and spaced repetition as well. I'm really excited to be joining you today from the London office, where it is a lovely sunny afternoon, but wherever you may be, good morning or good afternoon or even good evening or good night. We'll get started right away. So what we're going to be talking about today, and do please feel free to ask questions throughout. We do have people responding. We have my other panelist, Phoebe, who should be on the keyboard tapping away any answers that you may need, but we will address questions at the very end of the presentation. So if you do have any questions, be more than happy to discuss those at the end. So what we're going to be discussing today is, I don't know what's happened there. My apologies. We're going to be discussing Brain Boost, which is our take on spaced repetition, which is a really, interesting concept in learning. So I'm going to be talking a bit more about what that entails and how we've approached it from a unique perspective and adapted it to the modern workplace. We're also going to talk about motivating your learners with leaderboards. Now, with leaderboards, basically you can add some motivation to your lessons by pitting your learners against each other, which is a really exciting possibility, and it's going to add that extra bit of motivation to your learning. We're also going to talk about sending customized push notifications to your learners, which is a really exciting way to personalize your encouragement to them, and it's a great way to give them a little push to just get them back in the app. If you've got some learners who have maybe stagnated, you can just target individual learners. I'm also going to show you how you can target groups with push notifications. They're going to get them right on their devices, just like they would an Instagram or Facebook notification. So it's really exciting, and I'm really glad that everybody's with us. Seems like we've got quite a few participants today, so that's very, very nice. So I'm going to jump straight into a demo. I only have those 2 slides today, so the rest of the webinar is actually just going to be a hands-on demonstration. And we're going to start here with payment card industry security standard lesson, which is actually being shown in our old authoring tool. Now, in the sort of old or classic authoring tool, this is the default option in EdApp at the moment. But basically, we have an interactive panel on the left. In the middle here, we have our configuration panel, and over on the right, we have the slide chooser. What we're going to do is press try it now, and we're going to jump into our brand new authoring tool, which has been remade with the HTML5 technology called React, which basically allows it to be a little bit more responsive and also have some really, really nice new features. And as you'll notice, it's the exact same lesson that I'm opening up. So you can either author in the old tool or you can author in the new tool. They're both going to be adjusting the same data. Pretty much in your lesson, it's not enabling any new features, but it does make it easier for you as an author to author lessons. So over here on the left, we still have our preview panel. But what you're going to notice is when I edit things in the middle here, it actually responds a whole lot quicker. So essentially, it's just a tiny delay between typing and seeing it there on the left. We've also added a couple more device options. So these have been added to the old authoring tool, but if you do click the iPhone 10, for example, it's going to fit exactly within that window there. So we've made it a bit more adaptable and a bit more easy, because we are seeing a lot more devices that are bigger. The trend tends to be on mobile that bigger is better. Whether that's better or worse, we don't know, but at least EdApp is adapting to the new screen sizes. Another thing you'll notice is dragging around slides is a lot smoother. So as soon as I drop this one back to where it goes, it gives me a nice little slide animation, gives me some positive feedback about what I'm doing. In the old tool, it did sort of jump around a little bit, and we fixed that as well. The other thing that we can change is formatting. So formatting is much easier to implement. The old way was essentially, if I wanted to make this text bold, for example, I would have to put 2 asterisks around it just with my keyboard. But now what I can do is just a quick shortcut to that. We've got this little bold button here, and that's just going to do it for me. So that's really, really nice. If I want to unbold it, it's as simple as highlighting it again. And maybe I want to italicize something, so I can just hit the italics button there, and it's going to put those underscores around it for me as well. So that's just going to save you a few seconds every day, but it adds up to a lot. The other thing we can do is quickly undo and redo just with these buttons here. So as you can see, it reacts to those bold and italics buttons, those formatting options. You can undo and redo. So we're just bringing it basically, giving it some new technology that enables it to just be that little bit better and to be a sidekick even more when you're authoring. And we honestly believe that our authoring tool is the best in the industry, and we want to keep it that way by adding new features, by redeveloping our authoring tool. What it's actually going to do is enable us to give you even more features quicker, because it's built in React, which is incredibly agile and easy to update. So hopefully watch this space and you'll see some even more interesting, versatile features. If you do have any ideas, please just send us a message and we'll put your ideas on the list. But we've got some really exciting stuff coming in the roadmap. Another really exciting feature that we do have is autosave. So if you hit the more icon here and you just tick autosave, that's going to enable autosave in your lessons. The other thing that's, I would argue, even better than autosave is if you do click away from your screen. So I'm just going to click this link here. It's going to prompt me and say that the changes I made haven't been saved. And that's just going to stop me from losing my work if I'm ever within a lesson, I've made some really interesting edits and just forgotten to press that save button. On the classic tool, it doesn't do this, but on this tool, it does prompt you and tell you that you need to save. So I can just hit cancel and then save my lesson there. So that's really exciting. That's the new authoring tool. And that complements a whole host of new other features. So what I would like to highlight to you as well is if you do go into the new authoring tool, you can go back at any time by just clicking that button there, or you can come in here and press use the classic tool. And that's actually just going to take you back to the past, I suppose, into the old classic authoring tool, which is, if you like it, you can still use it. We're not going to force change upon you. But as I've expressed, it is a really interesting, it presents some really interesting possibilities. So it's very interesting and very exciting, the new authoring tool. So what we're going to jump into now is a demonstration of our amazing new feature called Leaderboards, which actually pits your learners against each other. So over here on the left, I have an iPad set up, and I do have it just hooked into the computer now, so you can see what's going on here. And hopefully I'm going to demonstrate, a couple of our new features, Leaderboards and Brain Boost, just providing this link works. My apologies if it does cut out, but in testing it worked fine. So let's carry on and try our Leaderboards. So Leaderboards essentially are a way of motivating your team to compete against each other. So here I can jump into my Los Angeles team, for example. I can view my winners and I can see each of the users and how many points they have. So these points basically come from lesson completions and their best attempt at a lesson. So if a learner scores 100% in a lesson and then goes on to score 77, it's going to compute that from the 100% score. So it shows your learners at their best, and basically these scores are just the percentage of their lesson completion. So that's a really good feature to get them going back and getting the maximum score possible. And it's really, really simple to create a leaderboard as well. So all you have to do is come in here and press create a leaderboard. And I'm just going to give it a title. So let's call this one US versus AU. So we can pit our employees in the American outlets against those in the Australian outlets. Now, if you do want this for internal use, you can leave this unticked, but I'm just going to tick this box here that gives learners access to the leaderboard. And this is actually a group leaderboard because it's comprised of user group collections. If you'd like an individual leaderboard to see all of the learners in each user group, you can pick individual leaderboard, but I'm going to go group leaderboard over here. And I'm going to pick the group Australia, which I've created, which is the Melbourne branch and also the Los Angeles branch. The other thing that we can set up is a date. So let's say I want this to go for quite a while. I can set it to until it goes to October. So that's basically the duration of your leaderboard. You can essentially make it forever by you can continually extend it, or you can just set it to like 2024. But essentially, you want your leaderboards to run for a set period of time. just so you eventually do end up with a winner, like a number one. And the learners are going to be alerted to this as well. So let's just take a look at leaderboards in the app here on the left. I'm going to load up this one. So this is the Melbourne leaderboard, but I can also pick from the global competition, and the learners are going to be able to see that as well. And I'm just going to show you by hitting save here. We're going to see that US versus AU leaderboard jump over here to the left on our iPad. So I'll just navigate away and reload the leaderboards, and you should be able to see this US versus AU leaderboard, and you can see who's in the running as a winner. So that's really exciting stuff. And this is also, of course, based on the percentage of users that have completed the lesson. So that's why we're getting a 0 in there. So what that does is it encourages the entire team to complete their lesson. So, oh yeah, you know, we want to beat the Los Angeles team with a Melbourne team. We really want to up our game, and there's motivation through that as well. The other thing you'll notice is up here, it does prompt the learners when the leaderboard ends. So if you did want to make it an exciting competition, you could have it, you know, the best shop in this week will get a prize sent to your store or something like that. So there's countless ways that leaderboards can complement your learning. And it's a really, really exciting feature that we've got coming, but not as exciting as Brain Boost, which is our take on spaced repetition. A really, really exciting feature as well. I'm just going to jump into our app settings here, which I already have open actually. So I jump into our app settings, and then I go over to the content tab. And what I'm going to tick is enable spaced repetition. I've already ticked it because it does take a little while to enable. You only have to do that once. So you tick enable spaced repetition, you can disable it. And if you enable it again, it's actually not going to take as much time to re-enable. Just didn't want to leave anyone waiting here on this demo. And then the other thing we need to do is jump back into courses and then just configure which courses we'd like to be enabled for spaced repetition. So these are the courses from which the questions in our spaced repetition game are going to come from. So if I jump here into our cybersecurity lesson and I click over to the spaced repetition tab, I've already ticked enable spaced repetition, but the other thing I can do is have a look at each of these questions. And I notice there's one here that says, how could this have happened? Now, this question doesn't really work that well out of context. Obviously, it relates to a scenario that's in the lesson. But if you just saw it on its own, it wouldn't make that much sense to you. So I can just untick include. And now that's no longer going to be included in our spaced repetition game. What I can do now is, as a learner, I can jump over here to Brain Boost in my app. And what it's going to give me is a screen that looks like this. It's very attractive and engaging. And so it's just orientating your learners saying, you know, it's time for Brain Boost. Let's see how you're progressing. And it also tells you your score from last time. So what I can do is, as a learner, hit boost, and it'll prepare my Brain Boost for me. And what it's telling me is that I'm going to see the following courses in my Brain Boost. So I'm going to see cybersecurity, understanding leadership styles, and also PCR DSS refinements. And if I hit continue, it's going to tell me I will now see 8 slides from cybersecurity, and I press start. And then we just do our quiz. So let's say SQL injection, press OK. And then this question, the answer is XSS. And I'm just going to drag in the correct answers here. And as you can see, you know, it's a great way for learners to revise their content. And the other thing that the algorithm is going to do is it's only going to present them with content that they've actually already seen. And the other thing it's going to do is use an algorithm to repeat the questions that they get wrong. It's going to repeat them more frequently than the ones that the learners get right. So it will still repeat those questions that the learners have gotten right, but it will also focus a bit less. Sorry, it will repeat those questions that the learners have gotten right, but it will focus a lot more on the questions that learners have gotten wrong. It works a lot the same as Duolingo. So we've implemented the SM2 algorithm, which is the algorithm that Duolingo use. We've implemented that to control when the questions do in fact come back. So we're just going to get through this quiz, and then what I'm going to show you is actually this score that I get at the end. So I'm apologizing that I'm not actually doing my best at these questions, but I'm just trying to show a bit of a demonstration here. Almost at the end here. So as you can see, it's simply a really quick quiz. It wouldn't take them more than maybe 2 or 3 minutes to do on the train or the bus, a little bit longer if they want to take their time with it. And then once they press exit brain boost, what's going to happen is a score is going to come up. So it'll show I've got 67%, and I'm motivated and encouraged to get that to 100% by a certain time deadline. So that really motivates you to revise your content, to go back over things, and to just keep your learning up to scratch. And that's really what it's all about. It's about engagement, and it's also about revising and revisiting that content to give you frequent reminders. So just to summarize, we've seen a few new features here. If you'd like to see any more of these, please feel free to pose that in the questions. We've seen a few new features here: Brain Boost, Leaderboards, and now we're going to just have a quick look at push notifications. So push notifications are a great way to bring your learners back if they maybe haven't opened the application in a while. So let's find a user that perhaps hasn't opened the application in a while. I'm just going to give the example of Tori here. And Tori is actually the user that is logged in over here on this iPad. So over here on the right-hand side, we've got a push notification. And what we can do is change the title and the body. So instead of this title, we're going to say, come back to EdApp. So I can change it to whatever I'd like, and then I hit send push. Just confirm it. Oh, my mistake. It doesn't actually work when the app is already open. The point is to get them back in the app. But if I hit send, then as you can see here on the iPad, it's got this notification here. If I tap that, it's going to bring me straight back into Ed and straight to the courses page where I'm able to see the latest courses that are there for me. You're also able to go to user groups, and we can find the user group that Tori is in, which is the Melbourne team. And send a push notification to the entire user group, which is actually, once again, application was open, my mistake. So if I hit send it to the entire user group, it's going to send it up there as well. Now, it's really important with these push notifications that you give them a great title, and you also need to realize that there is a character limit in these notifications here. It's not so apparent on iOS, but on Android, you are limited to about maybe 100 characters in your notification. Really important to keep that in mind, otherwise your message is going to get cut off. But push notifications are an amazing way to keep learners roped into your content. They'll just appear up here in the notification center, along with all the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, everything like that. Messages just strewn in around the notification center there.